tonight? Super excited. We're in a small room, and I'm using a microphone that really doesn't work that much, but it's for our video because we're going to do a video so that people that can't attend the training, then we can show them and they can learn from it too, because we want to have it be interactive and help everybody to learn, because I think there's so much we can do to improve judging. I think we have amazing judges, but I think we can raise the bar. So Dana, we're excited. She's our judging coordinator, helps us with all of our stuff. And now we're going to have Christy Joe, and she's going to help us with training. And so both of them will kind of be working together to help us to make Aspire better. We also have Sarah, who's our event manager, and we're excited to have her, and she helps with all the events. But as for judging, we'll have Christy and Dana. So basically, we're trying to raise the bar to make judging a little bit better, and I know there's a lot of, AJA and stuff that helps all of you ladies, but I'm going to turn the time over to Christy Joe, and she's going to do kind of a PowerPoint and talk to us a little bit about our judging sheets and a few things, and then we're going to turn the time over to Dana, and she's going to talk about, audio judging, and then a little bit about the new category of acro and hip hop. So I'm going to turn the time over to Christy.
Do you know if that has a clicker? Oh, you're so nice. Otherwise, I'm going to run over there back and forth. Do you mind? I'm a clicker. Okay. Hi. I know most of you. Okay, this is exciting. I personally am obsessed with, dance. I think we all are. So, I'm just excited to be here. So, our goal is to make Aspire judges the best. So that's kind of our goal in talking about everything that we're going to do today. Just the scoring, especially something that we want to align, is just how we all come into looking at numbers, how we reach those scores, and understanding a few things about the rankings and the point spreads and the difference between categories. So that's what I'm going to try and explain. And then if we have time, we'll just do a quick little spelling and just basic technical things that are probably just reminders for everyone, but sometimes it's nice to have those reminders. So if you'll go ahead and click. So some of our goals for this next year being that we are very professional, we're knowledgeable, experienced, and well-trained. And so how many of you are in the Facebook group already? Awesome. Okay, so I'll be making a post about once a week that is really, we want you to engage and comment and like, and some of you guys have been doing so great at that, and we appreciate it because it's just perspective, and it's the more we talk and give ideas, the more that you see outside of what your own perspective is, and it's really nice to get that. Like, I've learned so much from some of your comments already, so thanks for those of you who are jumping in. Go ahead and go to the next one. So I could only get the JPEG of the audio sheet, so I'm not going to talk necessarily about audio judging. Dana's going to talk about that, but that's just what you're going to see. Go ahead and click a few more times. So now you'll see 25, 25, 25, 25. And so in each of these little categories, we're going to go through a few different things and have open discussion about what they mean and what they look for. And because the mic is picking up for the camera, I'll probably articulate again what you guys are saying, but plan to comment at least once in the next 10 or 15 minutes, okay? All right, go ahead and click a few more times. All right, so in that top section, you can look at either the just the normal scoring sheet or the audio. Like I said, I just had the JPEG for that. So these are just 4 I picked out. So let's go through and let's talk about what we are looking for and some of the things that, instead of just looking for execution, which sometimes can happen, and what was right and what was wrong, opening our minds to a little bit more. So who can summarize for us what ambidexterity is and what we should be looking for? Perfect. So doing things on both the right and the left side. So in your opinions, let's take an intermediate, for example. Is it a 1-to-1 ratio? We want to see right and left leaps, right and left turns. Yeah, what are your thoughts there?
No, I don't think you need to do everything, do it right and then do it left. You just want to see a well-balanced, they this way, and there's no variety, no excitement.
Yeah.
So I don't think you'd be able to do, I mean, when they're practicing, yes, but not necessarily in their choreography.
Okay. Yeah. Let me just, before you do that, can you pick up what they're saying? I'm really nervous about that. I think I will pass the mic. Okay. We'll do that.
Sorry, I feel like if they know how important ambidexterity is being judged, maybe the coaches will be more likely to get their girls to practice in that way and to be more well-rounded, because sometimes just an easier route, sometimes in class, to just have them do what's getting them prepared for competition. You're going to do what they're excelling at the most, but that's maybe not in their best interest at becoming a better dancer. So if the coaches know that ambidexterity is going to be something highly judged, then maybe they will be helping train their girls more in that direction.
So for our amateur, and what did you change the names of the classifications of the different levels? Okay. So we're still amateur, intermediate, and then advanced. So let's take a beginner. We don't expect left, right? We're not going to mark down on a routine or anything like that. Okay, we're getting nods. Yeah, Dana. Great example. Those are great things to be looking for. So for the cameras, on the beginning level, so you could tendu, you could chasse right and left. And so being able to encourage that is a great thing. Okay, let's go on to difficulty. Let's take one of the hardest categories probably to distinguish is between amateur intermediate and intermediate, right? So just on a technical level of let's take pirouettes, what are our expectations for an amateur intermediate versus an intermediate? Anyone want to take the mic? Share your thoughts?
So for intermediate pirouettes?
Yeah.
I would think for beginner, just even a single pirouette, if they can execute it. But an intermediate dancer, I would like to see a double pirouette with proper technique, lifting on releve the whole time, spotting all the regular stuff for intermediate. And intermediate, I'd also like to see them put it left in. There's no reason why not to try. But I get the point of you can execute a right better than left, but that doesn't mean that you don't keep practicing. Because at the beginning of the year, maybe do a right, and how neat would it be at the end of the year to turn that to a left? So.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Let's go on to use of floor. This is one of my personal favorites. I love floor patterns. I love, especially watching solos, I look for a star pattern, making sure we're hitting upstage, we're hitting downstage, left and right wings, and center, and looking for that. And that's something I often find myself critiquing if we're missing one of those huge quadrants. So what are your thoughts on, let's take an intermediate. How can we watch for use of floor, and what are some of the feedback comments we can give if they're not using the floor? Remember, everyone has to have a turn high. Yeah. Do you want to say it again for the mic?
You're so good at it.
Oh, yes. Okay, use the floor. You need to be able to use the floor because it's very boring if they just stay right in the center and they never move, or they just do the switch line thing. And, that's 1980. That's what we did in the 80s. We don't do that anymore, and we did. We were cool. But to me, it's so much more exciting to watch a routine move from backstage, upstage, center stage, just all over the place. I love it when they do groups. They'll have like a big group here, and then they'll have a couple of girls over here, and then they all come back together. So I think we can just tell them, they need to utilize that stage, utilize every ounce of space that they have, depending on the amount of girls that they have. It's, of course, if they have 25 girls, it's really easy to use the floor. If they've got 5, it's harder, but they can still do it. So.
It's also great to be able to have everybody, I don't know how to let the coaches know, to have everybody start, especially the solos, and they're itty bitty, they're about that small on the stage. And then when they're so far back, and you're like, I couldn't see your face if I had binoculars. So if they move forward, then, and they're starting forward, and if they are small and their use of space is only going to be the front half instead of just only the back half, I just feel like they get so lost and so tiny. So I don't know if there's a way to I don't know if you send out any information tips to better competition season, whatever, out to the people who are coming to the competition. But if you were training your itty bitties, especially to dance more forward, up closer where they can actually maybe see more eye contact with us, I think it makes a big difference when they actually realize, hey, we're there, and they see us, and then something else kind of sparks with them. I always feel like, scoot forward, scoot forward, scoot forward. So, yeah, that's fine.
Great comment. All right, continuity. Who would like to talk about what that means? Trina.
So continuity is one of my big things. And a lot of that, I think, kind of goes to the choreographer. But I think the dancer still can enhance the continuity that's put in there, with her timing and her cohesiveness. But continuity, I like to be able to see the dancer, kind of take the music and be able to kind of feel that in her and be able to move around, with it too. But it has to have, it has to be kind of flawless and seamless instead of just like sitting in one spot and you're not kind of moving around and doing anything with it. You listen to the music and that music is going to take you over here and it's going to go over here and it's going to do different things with it too. So, and a lot of it, like I say, it is kind of the choreographers. The choreographer has to be able to, listen to that well and be able to put that on the dancer, and she needs to be able to kind of move, but it has to, fit. There's nothing worse than to have like this big buildup of something and then they're sitting here standing something, you're just like, oh, take it and move with it and do something wonderful there too with it. Yeah. So continuity is a big deal. It has to flow, and it has to, have purpose and reason for it as well too when it moves.
Great words. Purpose, reason. I like it.
Another thing with continuity, it's not start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. Again, 80s. Pirouette, stop. Prep, stop. You want to use the musicality to make the continuity. So you want to complete the movement. So you want to follow through and complete it and make sure that you put a period at the end of the sentence, but you also want to melt into the next 8 steps.
Yeah, and that's
so
where
it's
the dancer comes
yeah.
in, where she takes what's been given to her and blends it together.
I'm just luxuriating in these words. I'm like storing these up, right? That's why I like to talk about it, because oftentimes we all have our own usage of words and then hearing something else. So let's go ahead and go on to section 2. And just a quick note, I just find it so interesting just in terms of like statistics and like looking straight up at the data. So you can see it's different than last year if you judge last year, because now each of these categories have the same weight, which is giving some advantage to, different people, and it's just kind of leveling the playing ground. And I think that's really neat. And so as we kind of talk about these and really understand the weight behind each section and the differentiation, and it's not just like, oh, throw the numbers down, like really understanding the different sections. That's our goal by talking through these. So, okay, section 2, go ahead and keep tapping. Go ahead, one more. Okay, so now just looking at these small words here. So our goal as judges giving encouraging feedback, helping them gain confidence. We don't just want to slam them into the ground, like fix everything. Teach correct principles and feedback for improvements. And so keeping that in mind, that's really where I think we are our best selves. So now let's talk about control. And Jerry, do these sections have names that just aren't on there, or are they just... Oh, they're on these ones. Oh, just not in the one I had. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so in the technique category. So body control. I love the technique category. Who would love to talk about body control? What does that look like?
For me, when I watch, I think a lot of it obviously comes from their core, and which I do think a lot of dancers are missing these days. They're so focused on getting their turns and extensions and everything, and not flinging their limbs to get them, placing things with a purpose, controlling it. Make sure if you're extending your leg to the back, you're not flinging it back there so it's not straight. You're placing it with a purpose back there for a reason. It's nice and turned out. So to me, control is just you are obviously in control of every muscle in your body. Yeah.
I can picture that right there. Whips. Yeah, no whipping, flinging. So for the camera, some of those words, spastic. Less spasticness. Okay, alignment. Yes. Yes.
Another thing about control is that, like slow movements, you got to be tight instead of like loose. Like, you know, being tight while you're being slow, even, but making it flow all the same. So, yeah. And, oh, yeah, no, it's okay. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, too, something that I see a lot in like the lyrical category versus jazz category is I think a lot of girls think lyrical means soft. And you can have that continuity but still have control. And so I think that that's something when you're judging that to make sure that they still have that muscle control, but they are, you know, being fluid and continuous in their movement.
Great. You guys are so good. Okay, let's talk about strength, because I think that's interesting per genre of the dance. You know, a lyrical compared to a character, compared to a hip hop. Where is strength different? What are our expectations, especially looking at beginners or amateurs? You know, what do we expect in terms of strength? We haven't heard from this table yet. You don't have to. You just walk in. Yeah.
Okay, I would definitely say making the dancers aware of core strength and making them more familiar with it. I think a lot of times, at least with my girls, when I tell them to like tighten their core, they're like squeeze their butt or their arms or something. They're like, what do we squeeze? So I think just like you said, teaching them a principle. I think if the time allows, to teach them like where to squeeze, like that sounds kind of silly, but just so they're more aware of that the core is everything. And yeah, I think core is important.
Well, and I think that's huge. I'll never forget when I competed in Miss Drill Utah clearback. I never knew you were supposed to shun A in first position. Never was taught that. And a judge told me that. And I'll never forget that. Like, that was a huge teaching moment for me. So I just think of, even if we're writing, and Dana's going to talk about audio judging and that articulation, I think there's more room for teaching when you're audioing, but still almost looking at what comments are we giving that are, kind of just almost a waste of your pencil writing, like point your toes, straighten your knees, like, look at us. Like, how can we be more efficient? And I think that's just a mindset as we sit down at that table or get a break and like realign our minds, that we just have to remember that's our goal, is not just the basics. So.
Well, I feel like one of the main things that I feel like, to me, where the strength gets lost is if it doesn't get completed to the feet and the hands, there can be something so intense and so strong that also if it doesn't exit the hands and the foot, it's just like you're just left like, oh wait, that was going to be so great, but it didn't ever complete. And so I feel like that to me, that's where I feel like most of the strength gets lost in young dancers, is even if they're doing these amazing leaps where they got like floppy foot or whatever, or their hands aren't showing what the rest of their body is doing, then I feel like that is the main place where I feel like strength is getting lost in young dancers. Is just like, just finish it all, just all the way, just go all the way. So,
well, and I have to say, I've sat next to Jamie at some competitions, and my mind was so open to just description, and you're a great audio judge. Okay, let's move on to section 3. All right, so this is our execution section, right? Okay, so let's talk about transitions. Who feels like they have an eye for transitions? Chris she just groans. Trina.
Well, I think transitions also goes into your continuity, being able to take as a step and then move it to that step. But it's seamless, and there's purpose in the transition. You're not just going from here to from A to B. There's a reason why I'm going from here to there, and I have energy, I have strength, I have power in it, and there's purpose, and you see that in the transition instead of just step, 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 step. And then I like to see like a variety of transitions, that it's not just moving the feet. I mean, am I using levels? Am I going to the floor? Am I using different rhythms as I'm moving to kind of make it interesting? You know, how is that traffic pattern? Yeah.
I think that we really lack in the dance world. Transitions is a huge problem because it's like they go here, then they move here. There's no flow, there's no ebb, there's no traffic pattern. They're bumping into each other. It's something that is really tough for me to judge because they don't do them well. So I think teachers really need to work on transitioning.
I was going to say, for me, I like to all of a sudden be like, oh my gosh, they're in a different formation.
When did
you
that
know?
happen?
Yeah, exactly. Like I didn't even notice because it's so part of the dance. And for me, I mean, I judge a lot of solos. And I think transitions on that end too is not just walk, 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 walk. Like every time because that takes away obviously from the dance as well. Yes. And that can be with the group too, is like, I'm doing this big trick. Now I'm moving to my next spot. Did you catch that? That's going to be good because I did it.
That was good. We'll go here and here.
I was just agreeing with her that all of a sudden you lose your showmanship in transitions and your eyes immediately go down or even go behind you, and it's like you're still performing in the transitions. You should know your spot. The people behind should be adjusting to you. You shouldn't be looking behind you. It's still part of the routine. It's not just, especially remember, let's bring up the 80s again, hands on hips and running. That's all it was. Now you can do turns, and yes, you got it, girl. You can turn, and you can leap, and you can do lifts and travel during the transitions and still chin up, chest up, still perform it.
One thing that I notice a lot is the transitions to and from the floor, and even with floor work. I see a lot of heel to toe, just like if they're on their knees, their feet are like just relaxed instead of pointing. Just making your bones turn into mashed potatoes isn't like, yeah, it needs to be more taught more, just because it's transitions on the floor are hard anyways, and so they just need to be smooth, especially on the floor and getting to and from. Yeah.
So body control is both in technique and execution, right? So two different approaches to it. Erin, do you want to comment on it?
I like this one because I feel like it really brings the feel of the entire dance, like with your continuity, the strength of movements, the body control. I feel when someone has their everything under control, the dance is so much more powerful. And those are the dances that move me, when they have complete control. And there's such a strength in that. And it gives me the chills talking about it because it's that wow factor. If you have it all together, and you can have beautiful choreography, but if you're flailing, like she said, like, you lose it. You don't bring us in. But when you have complete control and your emotions are in check with it, like, that for me is what, like, dancers nail it when they have the complete body control. So I like that one.
So, I realize we're talking a lot of optimality and what we would love to see, but realizing a lot of our dancers we're judging are developing, right? So what's our expectation of, let's say, core strength? Like, yeah. But this is the interesting thing, and I think will help us be better judges, is recognizing the appropriate level of strength for the age group, because what happens is those scores go down because we don't know how to position our mind. So we're basing it against optimality at that 100. And they are so far below. And so these beginners and these intermediates are getting such low scores instead of being judged to that level. So how do we get around that?
Well, I think with technique and execution, like for me, technique is, okay, you're intermediate. Did you show me a double? Now, execution, did you have control during that double? So technique, okay, you attempted it, so I'm going to give you a point for technique because you're where you should be, but as far as execution, you didn't execute it perfectly. So you do have to put in your mind, like even the littles, you know, like your tendu, they can straighten their leg. Do you know what I mean? Like that's fine. Do they have strength in that? They tried it. Technique, how was their execution? So I kind of go back and forth between those two. Did they attempt it? How was their attempt? Is kind of how I delineate between those ones.
Delineate. I just love big words. Wow.
But I do feel like with any age, like you can exhibit body control. Like choreograph to your dancer's ability at a young age. My 3-year-olds, I can put them up there and have them try and show their parents everything I've ever taught them in class. Or I can give them 4 steps to repeat, and they will have control. They will remember it. So I feel like body control, you can have that at a young age. Just don't overdo it. Don't try and show off your choreograph skills when you can just let the dancer dance and own their movements, and they can be in control of their body. So I feel like that even as young, like, don't try and show your own skills off, show their skills off. You know, don't complicate it for the dancer. Let her feel in complete control and let her be able to feel the music because it's not so complicated. She's not trying to remember all of her steps. It's, I can feel the music. I already know the steps, you know, and it gives them such a confidence when they have that body control. So
let me ask you a follow-up question. So let's say you're a writing judge. How do you kindly, quickly make that point come across?
I think I would just say either simplify, like basic simplify, or just, or a nicer way, I guess, like cater to the dancer's strengths. Like she was strong in these areas, cater to those areas. Like maybe she doesn't need quite as many steps, like just, I don't know. And granted, the only ones I'm teaching right now are 2, 3, and 4. And I'm like, oh my gosh, your Christmas performance is going to be a disaster. And I have stuck to 4 steps. But they get it. They start to get it, and there's a control. You know, they're not like thinking, oh my gosh, what comes next? Yes. And they'll look out there, and they're not going to get up and cry. Like just, so even a very beginning level, just give them what they can do. You know, I don't need to prove to the parents that I'm teaching something to their kids. They want to see their kids perform and feel confident up there. So that's kind of how I feel.
And I think with young ones too, this is your teaching opportunity. And without degrading them, you can say, oh, you are almost there. Next time, you know, I want you to work on pulling that passe up. Make sure you feel that foot at your knee or above it, you know. Make sure that you're just lifted up, so proud when you're doing that turn, and really can keep the upper body strong and make a big round ball with those arms as you're doing the turn. You know, giving them images of what you're expecting them to look like. I think that's kind of helpful for little kids, you know, to hear it.
But also, in the opposite of what Erin was, it's Erin, right? What Erin was saying was, it can be too simple. Like, you can see that dancer can do more, but you want her to queen out because it's an easy dance and she can do this. Push her. So make sure that you're like, you perform that perfectly next time I want to see you try and do a double. And I'm not saying 3-year-olds. I'm talking all levels. You know, don't simplify just to get a crown. They should be learning something the whole time. So that's my opinion.
I don't know if you're going to cover it later, but I was wondering how much of our comments are supposed to be kind of towards the coach and just towards the dancer? Because I feel like a lot of times, I think a lot of the comments are maybe for the coach, because it's, I mean, especially in itty bitties, like, are you directing the comments towards the coach when it's the little people, or are you like in the older girls? I feel like I direct the comments more towards the girls, and in the little bitties, I kind of do the comments kind of like I'm talking to their mom. Okay, so maybe have them. Do you guys do that, or is that what we're supposed to be doing?
Well, I feel like you have to give the littles the benefit of the doubt, but like if you can clearly see that there's no content in a routine, say, you know what, this child can handle some things. Put one of these in, try one of those. Give her some challenges. She can do more than just wiggle, you know? Make her do some things.
So in the solo, we should more just be like focusing it towards like stuff that they can individually work on instead of like their coach can help them with. Okay. Sorry, I wonder if that's kind of a lame question, but I always feel like who am I kind of are these comments I should even be making because are they even relevant to who's going to be hearing the comments? But. Yeah. Yeah. What are your thoughts on if it's directed towards the dancers, but then anything that would relate is, well, maybe just a note for the teacher or the choreographer, kind of highlighting it, pulling it out, and then pulling it back in, making that personalized. Is that an okay thought there?
Go ahead. Oh, I was just going to add to that, like the DVDs and stuff. So I don't know if other studios do this, but what we did was tell our soloists to, after they've seen it at home, bring it to us. You know, we'll watch it together and then we both take notes, like me as the choreographer, them as the dancer, so we can compare. And then, so I don't know if any other studios do that, but we found it worked for us really well. And then as far as like just me being a coach and reading score sheets, like even with my itty bitties, like my 3-year-olds, we'd sit down and like I'd read them and kind of, you know, dumb it down and stuff. And they'd be like, what's that? You know, and just so that they're aware, I think it was, you know, really beneficial for them. Be like, okay, your arms weren't round here, or you didn't stretch your foot in your tendu. Just coming from a coach standpoint, I feel like the judges' comments can go both places, if that makes sense. Like, I think they helped the little ones because they'd be like, okay, we need to fix this and this and this before our next competition, and then obviously I would know what to fix. So I think it kind of goes both ways.
Well, and on that note too, last year I remember when some of my girls went to a competition, came back, and I was listening to some of the audios, and I was quite frankly mortified at the lack of comments. And I was like, darn well, if we are really good judges, like that's the thing is like, why are they coming? They need feedback, confidence, correct principles, and feedback for improvements. So any other comments before we move on? Okay, synchronization. This is tough because I believe it is still on our, oh, no, it is on audio. I was, for some reason, got confused and thought solo. I'm like, you can't really synchronize yourself to somebody else. You can synchronize yourself with the music. So who would love to comment on synchronization? Yeah. You'll be so great.
I did drill in high school, so I really love it when they can be like perfectly together, which I know it's not always possible, but even if they're just feeling each other and they are like doing it together and they're really feeling the music and it just like flows, and that would just be awesome if they could just, you know, because sometimes it's, especially with the little itty bitties, they can't always do it right with each other, but you know, if they're doing it with the music and they're really feeling it, and you know, because sometimes it's just they're just feeling it with each other, you know. I don't know. It's just.
Also, to go along with synchronization, sometimes I see dances that are almost too clean and it looks almost too drill teamy for like a dance competition, and you're just like, you need to feel something like breathe, or like, I don't know. You get what I'm saying. Yeah. It needs to be like more organic and in some ways, yeah.
Lots of comments.
Do you guys feel like sometimes the synchronization part comes into like the difficulty level, like when a coach hasn't been able to figure out how to get all the girls, they can't synchronize because the one girl is showing off like her kick is like up to here and the other girl, like, to find some like continuity in between the girls' skill level to be able to be like, well, there's no way you're going to synchronize unless sometimes people have to give and take. One girl has to practice harder, get her leg up to there, and someone else sometimes hard in group dance where you kind of have to, I don't really want to say dumb down, but you want to bring down, you have to bring down your skill level a little bit because you have to sacrifice that for the sake of synchronization, continuity, and you have to bring it down a little bit. And I think that's hard for some dancers, but I don't know if that's something we can just let the coaches know, or maybe they know and they tell their dancers that and they just don't do it because they want to be like, oh, it's competition, I got adrenaline, I'm going to kick up to here. But I think that synchronization and continuity, and they all tie into one situation.
Well, and I'm kind of seeing a theme here is reminding ourselves and reminding the coaches and the teachers, like, this is not an ego play. This is about the kids. This is about their development. And it's so trendy to pull out that soloist over and over and over. So,
for me, synchronization for the itty bitties is popcorn. It's going to look like popcorn. And you just have to accept that. Now, another thing with synchronization, it's not Beyonce and her backup dancers. I hate that. You're a team, and you should spotlight those people who can do extra, but don't forget there are other dancers in the room. And so maybe I love the new concept of sectional dancing, where people over here are doing fouettes, and people over here are doing extensions, and people over here are doing aerials. And it's what they are good at, we're spotlighting, but we don't have one girl in the front and everybody else in the back, because that kind of makes them feel like, why am I even here?
On synchronization too, with the little ones, sometimes it's just like being able to feel their music, and that's a hard one for them. So often I'll just say, really listen to that music. And when I would teach, we would have clue words that they did things with, because that was kind of the only way. Some of them it was over their heads. They just did not understand. And others, it was a natural thing they could feel and do. And so like being able to put certain strugglers by ones that got it kind of was helpful. But, with the little ones, I'll just say, really listen to those words carefully and make sure you're hitting it at this certain point there. The older ones, I always try to comment, feel that music, internalize it in your body. And then learn to express it so that I can feel something from you, so that you're, really listening to the music. So that's why I kind of tell. And then if they're doing it in group work, they feel one another. Because sometimes there's those that just shine. Look how high up that leg can go or whatever. And that is what it is about. You need to work as a group and a team and feel one another. And it's so beautiful when you see that. A spirit de corps, when they just feel one another and then they can present it at the same time. You just go, it's just moments. It's neat.
This is more of a question. Would you call the synchronization or showmanship when there's like a few people who are like really energetic, and then there's some that are like mediocre, and then some that aren't performing at all? Would you call that like synchronization? Like, would you say make sure that you match energy levels? Because there's some people.
Yeah, that would go under showmanship most likely. And you could use that word, but I think that's a great question, synchronizing the showmanship and the projection and such. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to section 4. That was a great segue. Thank you. All right. So eye contact, intensity, stage presence, facials. We can go ahead and cruise through this one. So if you want to touch on multiple, go ahead. Let's have 3. Yeah, you want to start? And then wait, we haven't heard from you. You can start.
Lovely. This is my, I focus on this one so hard. Like, I will give you all the points in the world if you can make me enjoy watching you and make me believe it. Like, there is nothing that drives me more crazy than like an amazing technical, just almost perfect dancer where there's like nothing going on. And I'm like, I can't even, it drives me crazy. But then there's a girl who maybe, is a little bit, maybe not quite as technical, but she is like having the time of her life. And I'm like, you know what? You got it. Because I am sitting there smiling and just enjoying every second of that performance. So like, I just feel like this is one where I don't know if like teachers just don't teach this anymore, but they focus so much on the technical aspect of it and forget the performance. And I think that it's like on the score sheets now, it's equally as important. It needs to be focused on a little more. And
Well, if I remember, last year wasn't this section, I think, was worth 30, and then choreography was 20. But I think it's really hard because for me, as dancers, when you watch, it is easy to focus on technique and, hey, they didn't point their toe, they didn't prep correctly. But when I think of what the audience is seeing, they're watching the showmanship. You know, there's not, the dads out there aren't like, that girl didn't point her toe, you know, like they're going off of this category alone, pretty much. And for me, at the end of the day, this is what dance is about. It's about enjoying yourself and performing and having a good time. Like it's, you know, that's the artistic form of it, is a performance. It's a show. And so it's fine that it's even, but I did like that it was more points last year because I do think that it's so important because so much goes into it.
I hate contemporary dances because everyone looks like they're so sad and they're so mad and they're 7. Your day was not that bad, sweetheart. You can smile and do a contemporary dance. You need to feel the purpose of your routine. It can be contemporary and it can be happy and joyful and it can have sad moments, but it doesn't need to be sad and depressing the whole time. On the same note, hip hop, cheesy grins, not going to work it. But when you are mad and you are angry and you have that attitude problem that your mom told you to get rid of, bring it to dance and just make it work. Like the hard grunge core work of hip hop. That's what it's like. And if you're doing a jazz dance, be a character. I mean, make up your character's name. You know, like my name is Sasha and I'm going to shake it like no one else. You know, become the character on the floor, but also make sure that it's appropriate for music and the technique and the execution and the choreography. That all comes together with how you perform it.
Yeah, Jamie.
A lot of times I try to remind the dancers that there's so much more to performance than the lips. There's so much about the eyebrows and the eyes and the cheeks and there's like, just because you're doing a serious dance doesn't mean that the rest of your face cannot intensely speak to us in different ways, and that there's so many different things that you can do with especially when you're having eyelashes up to here and whatever, like utilize your stage makeup. Any of you guys make comments about that kind of stuff, about hey, I would like to see more. I'd like to see more stage makeup so we can. I don't know if that's. I don't know, but I don't know if that. I wasn't sure if that's appropriate, but. So I know there's a thing that says makeup, but I didn't know if people are like making actual comments about that, because I feel like sometimes you can't really see what's happening with the facials. But if it's the eyes and the eyebrows and the cheeks and everything, that I think that people just think there's only this and this, but there's just so much in between. And if our dancers realize, like, I remind, with dance, my mom, it was embarrassing, but we would line up, we'd brush our teeth, and we'd practice our facials, because sometimes they're obnoxious and you don't know that it's obnoxious because you haven't practiced it. You wait to practice it on the stage because it's embarrassing. You don't want to do it at practice, then you get out there and it's like, oh, wait. But, yeah. So maybe even if we can remind people, like, practice your facials in the mirror. Become confident with, like, what your face feels like when it's saying what you want to say. Because I make my kids do that for family pictures. Practice your smile. What is that doing? That's not your real smile. So if even just little comments like that, like I would have liked to, like, pass that on to some people when I see people, especially ballroom can get really whatever's happening. But so that I remind ballroom students, like, no, actually that's not pleasing to those kind of facials. Actually, they're energetic, but they're actually not pleasing. Yeah, they're not pleasing. So I remind people to practice that kind of stuff. I don't know if that's legit, but
I always tell people to practice their facials in studio in the mirror because it's muscle memory. You train your foot, you train your arms, you train your core. Why not train your face? If you don't do it in the studio, you're not going to do it on the floor.
So
Summarize it in one sentence.
Choreography also includes your facials.
Great. Okay, go ahead. I'll be fast. Okay, and this will be our last, then we'll move on.
Okay, sorry, I'll be quick. But just one thing on top of like makeup, I think hair is really important. There's so many times where like I've had dancers or seen dancers that want their hair down, like for their mood, and I just think it's so distracting. And I don't think judges comment enough on hair. Like, get your hair out of your face. Like, we want to see your face so we can see your expression. We can see if your chin's up. Like, hair, I feel like, can be a big distraction, and I feel like judges need to be more noticeable of hair. I don't know.
I don't want to see you be pedestrian. I want to think you came to the competition, you walked in here from the bus stop, and got on the stage. So just remind people, this isn't a place to be pedestrian. Like, if we see you up in real life, it should be, wow, hey there. But on the stage, it's very, do you see some girls that you're like, seriously, that's the hair they slept in and came to the competition? So, yeah, and I think it's kind of goes with the modern and the feeling. I think so many beautiful heads of hair. So sometimes I think I do comment about, like, I'd like to see a little bit more professional look and a cleaner style with your makeup and hair.
Well, and a lot of hairography is included, and I hate it, but it's something that's popular now.
Yeah.
But you can put your hair in a high ponytail. I'm just gonna keep this. Hair is often, and hairography is included in a lot of routines nowadays, especially hip hop. A slicked up ponytail, that's still messy. You're still gonna have things flying in your face like I do now, but braid it and then still use it and pull it up. It can be clean. It does not need to be in your face. Don't hide behind your hair.
So is that something you necessarily dock for, or just comment?
I would comment. I would comment.
So she's saying dock if you see the same team a bunch of times.
Distracting from their what they're doing, because I see a lot of girls, they hold their head different. Like when they turn, it'll be tilted, or because their hair is a certain way. So if it's detracting from their technique or their execution, then they need to know. I think it's the same with costumes too. If it's taking away from those other things, then yeah, dock.
So Dana says, please don't dock because you don't like the costume. Yeah, it's a great comment. Yeah, don't dock costumes with soloists or teams. When is it appropriate to dock for costumes?
If it's very, very immodest to the point that you're uncomfortable, and you know that if you're uncomfortable, the audience is uncomfortable, then I think they should be docked, because they need to know it's not appropriate to wear inappropriate costumes. But if you don't like the color, you don't like the style, whatever, you cannot dock them for that. That's your personal opinion. Right. If they're clean and put together, they get the points.
So I know some teachers have thrown a cow over that. They're like, well, these are just old judges and they just need to get with the times, right? Did any of you see, there was like a really long thread about this in one of the judges groups on Facebook, a huge group. I don't know. Someone else, it was in like, oh, yeah. Well, no, I commented last year on mine. And it was regurgitating what we had talked about in your comments about the appropriateness and how if we just keep sliding down and accepting, where's our new norm and what are we actually supporting on a bigger level, a deeper level? So. Yeah.
Okay, this is a question because I was thinking about this last competition I attended. There was about 5 girls and they were probably 8 years old in like really skimpy little 2 pieces. And 4 of the 5 girls were really stick thin and 1 of them was not. And it broke my heart. I couldn't even watch it. I was just like, so I was thinking to myself, what are the judges saying about this? So I just want to see like, what would you say about something like that?
Right. I was that girl. Just kidding. When I was younger. I always say, because this is how I honestly feel, costumes like that detract from the line of your dance. It's like wearing tan shoes with black pants. Like, you're detracting from your line. So usually, I mean, obviously you don't want to like point the girl out, but maybe like, hey, your dance would look, you know, more uniform if I could see like that you didn't have, you know, a break, you know, and it was just one line. I'm sure I could think of a better way to say that when I'm saying it, but just to maybe comment, like it also is detracting from their technique and their execution, and she's probably feeling, right, exactly, a little bit nervous, but also just to point out, like, if they do have a problem, like, oh, it's a Utah thing, it's these old judges, you know, just say, actually, like, technically you would look cleaner if it was one line, or, you know, take it back to the stuff that they think is important, the technique, the execution. You know, I can't see that your core is in, well, I guess you could see that, but you know what I'm saying, like the line or alignment, yes, or whatever it is.
Well, as far as being a Utah thing, I talked to a mom just last week whose daughter competes nationally, and she said when they go to a competition and they sign her in and they watch her dance, they go, "Oh, you're from Utah, aren't you?" It isn't. We are known for great dancers in Utah, not because of our costuming. We are known for great dancers. So, oh, no wonder she's that good. You guys are from Utah. That's what she gets when she goes places. So,
did you want to comment? Well, I was just going to say, any of the national competitions I've judged, we by far had the most scandalous looking costumes. I think it's all of us moms who got married way too young, and we're living through our children because we never got to wear those outfits. Like, why are we putting them in there? I haven't seen anything like that. Right, we're trying way too hard for these young little girls.
okay, entry.
Well, I think you have to remember too, like, different competitions that you judge at. I mean, some care and some don't. And what I appreciate about this competition is that Jerry does, and you know, she wants it to be a family-friendly atmosphere. You know, that grandmas and grandpas can come and not go, you know, feel embarrassed or, you know, whatever. They want to feel comfortable, and she wants to create that kind of an atmosphere. And so we honor that and just say, you know, remember that this is a family-friendly atmosphere, and, you know, we don't want to make others feel uncomfortable with it. You know, I think there's a place for, you know, showing joy and, you know, kind of being sassy, and, you know, when they're sexy with little kids, you know, I don't care if they're 5 or 25, you know, some of it just doesn't work, you know. In some places there's a kind of a place for that. And is it at a family-friendly place? You know, I don't know. I don't think so.
I've had a dad behind me loudly say, "I am uncomfortable." He wanted me to hear. He wanted the judges to hear. Like, that's not okay. That girl's only 10 years old. And another thing, it is. Right. But one other thing is maybe just say, make sure all of your dancers are comfortable in the costume, and leave it at that. Because don't just hand them a costume and say, "Here you go. Talk to your dancer." Don't say, "Well, you're kind of heavier." Just say, "How do you feel in this costume? Do you feel like you're a performer, or do you feel uncomfortable?" You should give them the option. But that's a whole nother story, because I'm not going to go to every studio and tell them to do that.
Well, and I think what's important is that we realize that this is about being professional. This is none of us plugging in our personal bias. This is all of us saying, this is the standard of Aspire. This is what we do as professional judges. So therefore, you don't need to feel worried or like someone's going to call you out on something. So are we all?
It really does come back to the judges. If you know, there is a tactful way to say that. And then there's a hurtful way as well too. Sometimes it's not that little girl's fault. You know, their teacher, their mom put it in it. You know, it isn't. But sometimes it is the girl. They're like, "No, I don't feel like I'm confident in my technique, so I'm going to dress this certain way to maybe be attractive or whatever." But, there is a tactful way to make those comments to them and let them know that, that was perhaps distracting to me or whatever too. So I think we just need to be careful how we say it without necessarily, offending them, but if you don't say, if you see them come out in a skimpy little hot pink something and it's just this little strippy top and really low and we go, wow, you just look so hot. Well, of course, they're going to wear it again and again and again because you told them that they looked hot. It's a validation of that. So just, they're just kind of think about it, and that's something that you can kind of plan in your mind because it comes up. And if they walk out and it's shocking and you don't have anything, thoughts in your head of what you could say, it's, anyway, you just think about it a little bit before and you'll come up with a good answer for them.
Well, I think we all have a responsibility to not have dance becoming too sexualized. Because even if their intent isn't to make the moves be sexual, if you're wearing Spankies that are super, super short and you do this big leg thing, there's not really a way for that not to be too overly sexual. To people who are non-dancers, that just seems. I feel like we owe it to. As women, we owe it to other women to just kind of be more careful about how we're perceived. That is a technical move. It's not meant to be sexual, but in Spanky shorts that are in half a centimeter long, it's going to seem, there's just no other way, especially with these older girls who have such beautiful bodies. There's no way that people aren't looking upon them in that way. And I think it's more than just what we do as Aspire. I think it's what we should be feeling like we should be doing as women for our young women that are out there, is we should raise it to a higher standard that we can be perceived also as professionals, not sex objects. That's just my personal opinion.
All right, let's go ahead and move on. How are we doing on time, Darlie? Yeah. Okay.
I think I remember the thread. It was about tights. Because guitars are a new thing. Yes. Tights or no tights. Yes. I sat next to a girl who flat out told me, you cannot wear tights. And I was like, no, you can. You can dance in tights. Wow. It's okay. What was her argument? She just says it doesn't look clean. It doesn't look. And I think it looks better. I think it looks better. White legs.
Right.
Yeah. It makes them look especially in a group.
Right.
But it's just they get in the way and they constrict their movement. And I was like,
I think they make you use your muscles more. You're tight.
I remember it just dawned on me when you guys were talking. I was like, oh, it was the tight thread. Because everyone's doing just the plain leotards now, which is fine. But I judged once where the girls were on auditorium stage and our judging table was up at the stage and I was looking up. I've never been more uncomfortable. I felt like a gynecologist. And so that's not okay. Wear some tights.
Okay. You guys are awesome. Thank you. I think that's really what this is. It's just conversation for all of us to learn from each other. So the next slide is going to go through some points, which I personally find interesting. I like numbers. I like math, things like that. So let's just look at, this is just on the lower end of the scale. You can see the total's 92. If you were to just whack it straight across the top, 23 is 23, 23, 23, that adds up to 92. I'm curious, does anyone add up their points different than this? That you recognize you have 25 in each point or whatever total is, and you subtract from that number to get to that instead of adding up. Okay, and then to get to your total, you're just looking at how many numbers off the 25 or total you are and whacking that off 100. Okay, so we're all pretty much on the same page there. If you'll click it a few more times, Darlene, get the rest of the... So here's more of a middle ground, a 95, just a possibility. I mean, it's infinite, the number of combinations, right? Well, not infinite because we're only doing half points. And then a 99, whacking half off something. So just kind of getting that in your head as we now move into bigger point spreads. So if you'll click to the next one. Okay, so for our amateur and amateur intermediate, diamond 284 to 300, has anyone ever really understood these numbers? Because I know I haven't, because that's 3 judges combined, and all we know is our 100-point spread, right? So I'm going to break it down for you in just a minute, but let's click just a few more times for me. So that's the point spread for intermediate advanced. Do we understand why they're different? Okay. What I think is interesting, and maybe this will get you thinking about it, is because we naturally gravitate towards those lower scores. And that's just based off normal bias, and we're human. And so if we're seeing someone who isn't fully doing everything right, we just naturally gravitate towards a lower score. So, Jerry, is that right? Do you want to expand on why that is more, or is that basically it?
Sarah and I ran calculations the first year, and then again on the 4th year, we took all the average scores, and every amateur and amateur intermediate got annihilated, and they stayed on the low end. And so that's when we came up with the point scale of the 2 differences, because you're giving them, you feel like, the best score you can because they're amateur, because really an amateur could never get a 99, you think. But an amateur probably still has bent legs, non-pointed toes. But that's the best that an amateur can get, and so that's why we went with the 2 points, is because then when they don't have the pointed toes and stuff, they can still at some point get, a diamond or the highest score for their age group or for their skill level.
So I think that's interesting. So I am in the red. We're going to bring up, if you'll click that maybe 7 more times. So I broke it down so that you could have a better, looking at it for your score, just for understanding. So let's just only look at the left column, amateur and amateur intermediate. So for that top level, diamond, 94.6 and above. So then if you look sapphire is where I believe a lot of points get put for amateur and amateur intermediate. That's, a 90, and we think, oh, that was me being kind, but was it? And being able to adjust your mindset. Does anyone have any strategies for how they adjust their mindset for that amateur intermediate? Dana.
On your score sheet, there is a rubric. Follow it. If you think that dancer deserves a diamond, follow the rubric. Put your scores within that range, and you'll be good all the time.
And that's a good reminder, because I know,
And you'll spell sapphire right. I'm sorry, I'm spelling. You like math, I like spelling.
I think also that's why, you keep all for your pod, keep all your sheets, because if I'm judging, an amateur and I see, okay, this girl clearly was the best in this pod, then I can kind of go from there. And if I need to adjust something, I kind of see their skill level as kind of that little pod and see where I would maybe rank them in there as well.
Right. I'm going to come to you in just a second. So I've heard from a few judges over the years I've judged, but they were awful. And almost justifying an extremely low score. And I don't know, that never struck me as the right approach to it, rather than they were still working on a few things. Does any team, no matter how bad they are in comparison with the rest of the pod, let's say it was a 4 pod, 4 teams, and 3 of them are up in 96, 97, is it right to go as low as 88, 89? Even if they're horrible? Is that, I don't know. I'm curious, because I've seen that happen a lot.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to answer your question, but okay. Yeah, I just wasn't sure what is too mean. I want to be really nice because I want them to keep dancing. I don't want to squash their dreams. But what's too nice and what's too mean? You know what I mean? When do you know if you're not really giving constructive criticism or helping them enough by if you give them 99, is that really helping them? I don't know.
Right? Yeah. What are thoughts?
I try to say between 90 and above, because you can score them accordingly between 90 and 100. You don't have to. I mean, there's not that many in a pod, and for all levels. Right. Right. I've been an assistant competition director, and I've seen score sheets come in that are like 70, and I was like, these girls are never coming back. And I like to joke privately in the judges' room, and I'll just be like, you should try soccer. But I would never say that to them ever. And I don't want them to. You have the power to crush someone's dreams just because they weren't getting as much attention as the other girls in the class at that period in this year. And next year she can come back and be a completely different dancer. So I don't, in my own personal, I think 90 and above, you can distinguish up to 5 dancers in the right placement.
I appreciate when the competition director says, do not go below an 88. Yeah. And they give me my low. You don't want the mic?
Okay.
She does not want the mic. Okay.
I was going to say, though, too, we also need to be careful on the beginning of the season. I cannot tell you how many judges I've sat next to, and these kids that I'm giving 92s and 93s to are getting 98, 99, 99.5. It's the very first competition of the year. Where do they have to go? They have nowhere. And then they go to the next competition, and they're down in the low 90s. Then what are they going to do? Well, I just got 98 at Aspire last weekend. We have to be really careful because I see it every single year. Really? Because we're doing it right.
Yeah, great.
Maybe that's the comment Jerlie can say to the parents who are saying that is we judge a little bit lower in the beginning of the season to give your girls somewhere to go. Like,
Give them something to work for. There should be no question. Right. My question is, and I try to address this every time I judge, because everyone's different. I saw Team A 2 weeks ago. So do I say, thanks for following, because I've had someone argue with my face, to my face, saying, I want to tell them thanks for taking my notes and working on it. I'm like, you can't do that. And I just wanted to, I just think that's. Right. That's how I feel, but it is your competition. It's not my competition. So I want to make sure that we're on the same.
On that comment, though, is if they have improved something. If they have improved something that you saw at the last competition, you can't say anything about the last competition, but you can say, I really like the way this is choreographed. So then they see it's been changed. You're not comparing it, but you can, you see it was changed, and so you can like it now and make a positive comment about it.
Yeah, okay. Great.
I would just like I said, this is your, and this is the other thing is you get these judges who come in and they're like, well, I like to do it this way. Well, every competition is different. You're paying me. I'm gonna do what you want.
that's a good point. Say that in the mic.
You're paying me. I'm gonna do what you want. Every competition is different, and that's what makes it unique. That's why there's certain teams that will only go to certain competitions because they like that, and that's just fine. And other people will go to like the Diamond, Ruby, Sapphire, and they also do the first, second, third, fourth because they like a variety. But each competition is its own entity, and so you need to, if you have a question, ask the director during the judges meeting. They always have one first 20 minutes before you step out there, and you can say, what are your thoughts on this? Because every competition is different.
Great. So if you give a really high score, it's kind of saying, like, I think you reached a really high potential. Like, I can see that you guys have tried, like, your very best, and I think you reached your potential. Do you think that's pretty
that's the maximum that they would achieve in the season. Yeah, I think that's great. Okay.
I have a question, and you can jump down my back. So we
Claws
have
up.
been at other competitions, and I kind of agree with them, where they say, okay, you 4 judges, your first couple routines, you need to know what each other are scoring. So you guys, we're not having like 99s over here and 91s. I find that so helpful to be able to look at the other judges.
To know what other judges are scoring in the beginning. Right. Get on the same page. That's a good point. The first few you do need to. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. If we're on the same page, it's not we're copying scores, we're getting some leverage. We're understanding where we're at. I'm glad you bring that up. I think that's huge. Right. Right. Yeah. Okay, great. I don't know how much time we're going to have to go into the rest of this, but yes, and then I just want to make a comment.
Every dancer can improve. I do not believe in 100s. Okay, thank you.
Great.
There is always something that even with you're just like going, I want to be when I grow up and you're 15. Yes. Totally. But there is always something to improve on.
Just really quick, a strategy that I took is I really was crunching numbers last season and just really thinking about these ranks and everything. So when I got the gut, that's what we call it, right? Right, yeah. I would look before ever going out there, and I looked at the age division, and then I put the ranking. But now, it's on the judging sheet. So that really helped me, and I felt like last season was my best judging season ever because I was so diligent about getting the right spread and making sure that it was justified in the comments. So I think we're going to go ahead and move on. I had a lot more, but I think this has been effective, and thank you so much because we all learn, and other than, Trina being perfect. So thank you guys so much.
Okay, so I have some sheets that I've put together for you. And some of it I've gotten permission. We did these at Utah Dance Judges Association, but I got permission from the ladies to use their notes. So the first one I want to talk about is your judges' conduct guidelines. Always make sure that you arrive at the designated place at the designated time, or maybe even a couple of minutes early. Like if it's on a Friday afternoon, don't come like a half an hour early because school's still going on. So, but a couple minutes early is really good. Always have my information, so write this down. Dana's number is 801-891-4039. Text me if you're going to be late. This happened about 4039. This happened a couple of years ago. The competition has started. One judge had not shown up. Where is she? Where is she? So I finally went in and got a hold of her finally on the phone. Oh, I'm still home. I decided I'm not coming today. Oh, she goes, but I emailed you like 20 minutes ago. I've been at the competition for an hour and a half. I'm not checking my emails right now. So, yeah. It is. It caused somebody to have to double up, and it's really hard. So needless to say, we don't use that person anymore. But don't do that to me. Oh, I was so mad. I was so mad. And then I just got on the phone and started calling people until somebody finally could just run over and help us. So please don't do that. I know that sometimes check the weather. If it's going to be snowy, give yourself a little extra time to get to where you need to go. And then avoid conflicts of interest. If you have choreographed for, if you have a child, a neighbor, a friend, somebody in your neighborhood that teaches or is in a dance, let one of us know. I can jump in and judge that number for you so you don't have to be. Yes.
Really quick, I was assisting a competition, and one of the judges, it turned out to be her neighbor's daughter's friend's cousin.
Right.
I don't know. She didn't say a word, but did not judge. She wrote on the top.
No.
I am reclusing myself.
No. No. Yeah.
We didn't get that till 20 minutes later.
Oh no. Yeah.
And the other judges were like, it was this costume, it was this music. She's like,
oh yeah, I saw it. I can judge it. Yeah.
But I do
Right. Right. I didn't know. Right. But there's been lots of times people have said to me, you know, I choreographed this number. Do you mind doing it? Absolutely not. I'll come in and do that. No problem. Yeah. So. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Just do your best on that. Yeah. Do your best on that. If you're associated with a studio in any way, if you've choreographed for them and you know they're coming, step aside during that number. Let somebody else do that judging for you. Be impartial and fair-minded. That's easy. Practice confidentiality and integrity. Know your stuff. Be efficient and organized. Make sure you bring all the stuff that you need. Fulfill your contract. Have a positive professional body language. That means looking at the dancer and not playing on your phone, okay? And I know some people use their phone for a calculator. Bring a calculator. They're like $1 at the dollar store. Bring a calculator. Yeah. I have a great big one with great big numbers because I'm old as the hills. Yep, they absolutely do. There is a time to use your phone. It is not during the competition. There are breaks. There's lunch. There's all that kind of stuff. If you absolutely have to, and I understand, you have kids, you have things going on, text me. I'll come in. You go out. You make your phone call, and I'll judge for you. Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay, be prepared and educated. Be professional. Be physically and mentally prepared. Sitting still all day long sucks. It hurts. Your butt hurts. Your body hurts. It's hard. So be prepared for that. Okay. Remember, your image speaks volumes. So if you are sitting with your legs both up, your head back, and right like this, that's not really inspiring a lot of confidence. Be friendly and social with other judges behind the scene. So if, like I know, Jamie and Julie are friends, and sometimes Jamie's sister's here, but they don't ever sit and huddle and conversate with each other during a competition. You know, they do that in the judges' room. Okay, that's what you do. Yeah.
Seriously, so people can see, like, we're chit-chatting, like, to each other, like, non-spiritual.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, and we talked about the cell phones. Make sure you keep your eyes up. I mean, I know it's so hard while you're writing to keep your eyes up, but I've heard people say to Geraldine, they weren't even looking at my daughter. They had their heads down the whole time.
I love it, Geraldine, when you announce during the things in the gymnasium, when you announce it before, that half of the panel is judging and half is filling out their scorecard, because I know when I see them looking at you.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at reading
Yeah.
too, which I wish I wasn't, because I feel
Yeah.
And you think that they just think you're just ignoring their, you haven't looked up one time because you're filling out the card. But if they know this
Three are
section is
judging.
this section is filling out their cards, and people won't, because I'm sometimes like trying to fill out my card. Yeah. Yeah. The guy is like burning a hole in me from across the gymnasium.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. And then remember, judge on what you see and not a reputation. We touched on that a little bit. Like when Davis Dance comes, we know they're going to be awesome. But what if they're not this year? Don't come in there with a preconceived notion that they're going to take every single trophy when they come in. And like Geraldine said, justify your score. And even if you give a 90, like I saw a person give 100 score one time, and then she had all these things. Work on this, work on this, work on this, point this, do this. Why'd you give them 100? You got to justify that score too. So, okay. So, and I put little holes in these so you can put them in the front of your little folder. And then moving on to audio judging. If you went to the Utah Dance Judges Association thing on audio judging like I did, I am going to totally disagree with everything that girl told you. I'm so sorry. But she said, you don't have to talk all the time. You just say the things that are important. Don't talk just to talk. I disagree because I have heard parents come and say, I've had them say to me, she went 30 seconds and didn't say a word. I've heard them like YouTube it. You can listen to them all the time. Fill up the time. Fill up the time. I don't care if it's just that costume's cute. Look at your cute shoes. Your hair looks darling. That makeup is, if you can't say something, don't go 30 seconds without saying anything. Julie?
Sometimes when you're audio judging too, like I like it because if there's something that you see consistently through their routine, if you don't have something to say for maybe this particular part, you can go into detail like, hey, if you press down through your ankle and through the top of your foot, that'll help with your point. So you can expand on maybe what you said earlier, yes, and kind of teach as you're watching. So it has a little, some substance to it. And sometimes I'll even say, okay, going back to what I said earlier, this is maybe would be helpful if you tried this in the studio to fix that or whatever, to kind of fill up that time.
Good. Thank you. Tracy.
I feel like too, if you're teaching while you're audioing, it fills up more time too. Instead of just saying, point your toes, oh, your knees are bent, and you're telling them how to do it. I feel like it fills up the time and it gives you more to say.
It is your best opportunity to teach because it's in real time. When you write point your toes on the back of your sheet, they're like, okay, and you're writing as fast as you can. You can't say, like when you did the developé and you went up to this, make sure that toe, you don't have time to do all that. You do when you're doing an audio judge. So make sure you use that. And so my thing is, if you've judged a drill team thing and she said don't fill the time, fine. When you come to us, you fill the time. Fill the time up because you can. There's always something, even with the littles, there's things you can teach. And so that is your best teaching opportunity, I feel like. Remember for us, for Aspire, don't start talking until the music starts. Okay, so wait for that music, and then when the music comes up, what we want you to do is welcome that dancer to the stage. In your program, the dancer will have a number. Make sure you say that number. So welcome number 104 to the stage. Then you introduce yourself. My name is Dana. I'm going to be your audio judge today for Aspire. And then you can go on. Okay, and sometimes, I usually just do my first. And then, yes. 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 And then also, make a positive comment about the costume in the beginning. Because I've heard parents come and say, well, I know she wasn't watching my child, and we'll listen to it, and they'll say, oh, look at that cute red costume with the black feather. Is that what your child was wearing? Yes, it is. Okay, she was watching. So, those are just things that make it so that the parent can't go back and say, she should have got a higher score. They weren't watching my kid. Make a comment about the costume. Right, something to remind you of that. And then I think that helps you if you write it in your program too. And then that way if somebody comes back and say, you've got a tie here, but that one had a cane and this one had a feather. Oh yes, I like the one with the cane better. So, okay. And then make sure your voice is upbeat. Like, wouldn't you rather get a tape back that said, hi, I'm so excited to see you today, than, hello, welcome to the stage, number 2.
And that's Dana. If you hear her on audio, she is very upbeat. Yes. Yeah,
Right, thank you. Thank you.
But along with that, I think honestly you have to smile, and I know that's silly, but if you're smiling, your voice sounds better than if you're not. You have more of a.
Welcome to the stage. I've seen 5,000 dances today, and I can hardly take one more, but here you go. Yeah, so be upbeat. She doesn't fall asleep. Make eye contact with your dancers, or with the dancer, especially the littles. I've noticed if I make eye contact with them and I'm smiling and talking, they start to smile too. So, oh, yeah. Bye, Jamie. Thanks for coming. Oh, yeah. I'll hurry. Smile. Use a continuous commentary. Make an excuse for lapses in your... So if you have a dancer that you can't think of anything to say really, give yourself an out. Yes, that's awesome. Or I will say, oh my gosh, I just want to watch you. You're so fantastic. What am I going to say? What am I going to say? Give yourself an out. And then as soon as you come, yeah. Yes. Yes. That's good. Make sure you use the time as an opportunity to teach. And then when the music stops, you have to wrap it up. So even if you're in the middle of a sentence, the music stops, say, oh, thank you very much. And you got to wrap it up because it'll cut you off. And they won't get it anyway. So. And practice your audio skills. Like I do it on YouTube all the time. I do it in World of Dance. I do it So Think You Can Dance. I do it in So Dancing with the Stars. And then when the professionals come on and say what I did, I'm like, yeah, that's why I DVR them and do it by myself. And then when they come in, like if Derek says the same thing I did, I'm like, I am so good. I'm so good. Yeah. So practice. And YouTube's awesome for that too. Try not to use the same word over and over. I'm awful at that. Nice. Yep. And I have some little things in your judging when you come to judge that'll give you some options. So make corrections when needed. Give suggestions on how to improve. Use the stage, ambidexterity, level changes, et cetera, stuff like that, like we've talked about before. And then this came from a girl whose name is Jordan Williams. And she's a hip hop person from, I think they said she's danced all over in New York, all over in California. Anyway, hip hop is now moving to being called urban dancing. So if you see it called urban, it's hip hop. So these are all, just go over the glossary words. On the back, there's a website that you can go to. If you don't know what these are, like hip hop, I'm old. I didn't do hip hop. So I need to know what these things are. I'm not using half the terminology in here that I need to be using. There's a website. It is Steezy. Go there, put in what you want to see, and it'll bring it up and show it to you. You can do it on YouTube too. Know what you're talking about. Right. So like, it is more than just popping and locking, people. There's 3 pages of it. So make sure you know the terminology. And then this year we are going to have an acro category. And I just think we have to start learning about the gymnastics. I was never a gymnast, but my daughter's on a college team, and if she couldn't do an aerial of both sides, she didn't even get to try out. So you got to know how to do it. So, No, not in acro. And we are not sure yet. We're going to see how many people register for acro. If there's a ton, we'll come up with another judging sheet just for acro. So, but right now, this is our first year doing it. We're just going to see how it goes. But there's all of the stuff on there for that. There's 4 pages of it. And this came from Linnell Jacobson at Davis Dance, she teaches there. So they will have acro. So just go through those. They're really good information. And again, they're punched so that you can put them back into your thing. And I made them different colors so you can flip to them easy in your packet when you need to look at those little things. So, and thank you so much for coming. I know it's hard to give up your night.
So with the acro too, there's technique to acro. I mean, some of the girls will throw things that they're technically not even ready to do it. They shouldn't do it. I mean, they're hurting themselves, by doing it too. But there is a technique to it, and they kind of, is it Linnell? She kind of brought. There's a building thing of how you kind of build with it, as you're teaching and things like that. So if you understand that, and a girl is throwing something and her hips are out of alignment and her, her shoulders or whatever like that, she's not ready for that skill yet. And that's a great thing to comment to say, make sure that you master, before you're doing that, front walkover or whatever, that you can pull up on that straight leg and extend, your body, lift it up and finish it off too. And that's a big deal too with finishing acro moves. It's just like if their arms, they always should finish with your arms up and over. It's just, that's the professional way to do it. You finish a pirouette, you finish an acro thing. You come up from a back bend, the arms are up. If you do an aerial, you throw the arms up and finish it. It just cleans it off and just gives it that, beautiful statement of what you've done. But, just because they have done a back walkover, make sure that you comment technique.
I'm not patting myself on the back, but I worked with Linnell getting this workshop, getting the notes together for her. If you have a question, ask a student if you can just come and watch. Not watch a routine, watch them in their acro technique class, so that you know how to do it. But now that you have the words, YouTube it.
Yeah, exactly. There were things that I, like, what's a Valdez? I had no idea what that was before. A Tinsica I actually did know for some reason, but yeah.
So now
you guys all know what
know the verbiage.
It starts like a cartwheel, it ends up like a walkover.
Right.
So hand, foot, foot.
I'm going to Chicago next spring if anybody wants to go with me because I want to be certified.
Okay.
To where? Chicago.
I wanted to go to
The Acrobatic Arts Academy, and you get certified. I'm obviously not doing any kind of. I want to walk in and be like certified. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Next spring.
All right. Well, you guys, thank you so much for coming and always supporting us and me specifically, and every year signing up to do more and more competitions. I so appreciate it. You guys are awesome. I think we have the best judges in all of the competition world. I just do. Yeah. And I know it's hard to give up your nights, and so we just really appreciate you coming. Thank you so much.
everybody, thank you so much for coming. And I hope that everybody learned and can get better. You know, that's what we're trying to do, is help you be better judges, and then we can help the dancers become better dancers. So thank you so much for taking the time to come. And then if everybody will just fill out a W-9, then when the end of the year comes, I don't have to track you down. So if you can just fill those out, and we will be good to go for next year. But thank you so much for coming.